If I was to tell you that there is a place on Earth that is more weird, more mysterious than the infamous Skinwalker Ranch, and riddled with unrivaled occurrences that leave you sat there open mouthed, you wouldn't believe me, right? But there is. In this place, electronic devices go haywire, compasses spin, strange lights dance in its skies. Three mysterious blonde haired people just appear and disappear at will, and the unique wildlife show intelligence beyond comprehension. This is La Zona del Silencio, or in English, the Zone of Silence. Nestled in a Mexican desert lies a remote barren area they now call the Zone of Silence. If you click on Google Earth and find the US government laboratory that has been set up in the area, it tells you it's a Mexican grad school, but it ain't. It's a biolab. Hiding that just smells mystery. In this vast arid desert expanse, strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena have baffled scientists, pilots, and travellers for decades. A place often compared to the infamous Bermuda Triangle, but with a lot more going on and a lot more unexplained occurrences. To explain this, I feel I must do it in chronological order, as things happen here that can confuse even the hardest of paranormal investigators. The first recorded testament of this area happened way back in the 1850s, where local ranchers reported a shower of small burning pebbles falling from the sky. Although none of the ranchers or their families were harmed, a couple of barns were set alight and some of the cattle were killed. We can probably put that down to a meteor shower nowadays, but back then they must have thought the world was going to end, and little did they know that this would be the start of things to come. Things that people of today still cannot explain. Fast forward to the 1930s, an experienced pilot, Francisco Sarabia, was flying his plane over the arid expanse of Durango in northern Mexico when suddenly, out of the blue, the plane's dashboard lit up. Alarms sounded and the dials went berserk. All of the navigation equipment stopped working and his radio went silent. Francisco nervously tapped on his compass when the engines started to splutter. Francisco was forced to make an emergency landing in a barren wasteland. Luckily, he survived, but no explanation was ever given for the plane's malfunction. As soon as the plane was taken away from the zone, everything worked as normal. This was the first recorded evidence of modern technology equipment to be affected in the area, but definitely not the last. In 1938, a large meteor hit the region, creating a huge crater. None of these small pebbles that ranchers had experienced previously. This was larger, and once again, no one was affected. Now, weird there, Beau. Oh, but there is. Just 16 years later, in 1954, yet another meteor hit the area, in the exact same place as the 1938 meteor. Now, that's weird, right? This is when folks started to sit up and take note. Was this something, or was it just a strange one in a million coincidence? In 1964, Pemex, Mexico's flagship oil company, decided that the Mapimi Desert was an ideal place to conduct tests to find out if the area was good for an oil pipeline. They instructed Augusto Harry de la Peña to go to the area with a team and map out the area and report back with his findings. From day one, De La Peña and his team struggled. The team were equipped with radios and walkie-talkies to communicate across the wide desert, along with detection tools. But it all became frustrating as the equipment would work one minute and then stop the next. Eventually, De La Peña and his crew gave up. They shipped him some more communications equipment, more advanced, but they quickly stopped working also. De La Peña reported back and the exploration was cancelled for the time being. This is when the area got its name. In 1966, due to the lack of communications, De La Peña named it the Zone of Silence, and it stuck. In 1969, yet another meteor shower hit the region. Not the exact same place as the previous two, but nonetheless the same area. What was attracting meteors? On July the 11th, 1970, the United States Air Force launched an Athena V-123 rocket from the Green River Launch Complex in Utah. The rocket was intended to land at the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico, but it veered way off course and landed in the Mapimi Desert region of Durango. That's nearly 200 miles off course and smack bang into the area we are covering. Now, when they launch rockets like these, they are meticulous when it comes to course plotting. One, because they don't want it ending up in a populated area should anything go wrong. And two, the fuel calculations are normally 100% spot on, but not on this occasion. Further still, the rocket was carrying two small containers of cobalt 57, a radioactive isotope, a dangerous radiation emitting substance. This caused an international panic and a full-scale clear-up operation, Operation Great Sand, was instigated. Werner von Braun, we all know him, right? The former Nazi war criminal who helped set up NASA, was in charge of the clear-up operation. He spent a month in the area, accessing and organising. They even built a special road and set up a temporary housing facility so a team could work on the area. In all, after combing the area thoroughly, 60 drums of contaminated topsoil was removed. It was all hush hush. Why? Surely the locals were entitled to know what they were doing and why they were doing it. But the biggest question had to be, what had attracted the missile to the area? During this rocket or cobalt recovery, 3 workers reported that whilst driving down this temporary road, escorting some of the topsoil off a site, they passed 3 tall, thin, blonde haired people that looked out of place. At first, they just raised their eyebrows and passed them. A few minutes later, without deviating off course or anything like that, they passed them again. It was as if they had teleported forward and ahead of them again. As they looked behind them in the truck's mirrors, the 3 had disappeared. Another few minutes on, and the 3 strangers amazingly appeared again. This time they stopped the truck and got out. When they got out, the 3 had mysteriously disappeared yet again. They brought this up with their superiors, von Braun no doubt, yet it was dismissed and never brought up again. Eventually the area was decontaminated and the makeshift accommodation was dismantled, and von Braun went about his business as if nothing had happened. In the mid-70s, 2 amateur fossil hunters, Ernesto and Josephine Diaz, were scouring the area looking for rare stones and fossils. They had never tried this area before and were excited to do so. The 2 began to get engrossed in their work and didn't notice a storm brewing and heading their way. Before they knew it, a heavy downpour hit them and the area became like a boggy swamp. They rushed to their car and attempted to make their getaway, but the flash flood was too much and the car got stuck. Inside the car, the 2 began to panic and feared for their lives. And then out of nowhere, Ernesto noticed in the windshield 2 men, dressed in long coats, which he immediately thought strange for the hot weather, headed towards the front of the car. Without hesitation, they helped Ernesto and Josephine pull the car out of the bog. When the car was free, a relieved Ernesto got out to thank the 2 men, but they were gone, nowhere to be seen, as if they'd just vanished into thin air. The couple gave a description of the 2 men. Both were very tall, thin, with blonde hair. He noticed the men had no baggage or bottles of water, which was strange in a hot, arid area like the desert, but disturbingly, they had vanished. This tallies with a local rancher who reports that every now and then at his ranch just down the road, 3 tall, thin, well-dressed individuals often visit. 2 men, 1 woman. They speak fluent Spanish and are always almost over polite. And they only ever ask for one thing: water. They never ask for food or shelter or anything else apart from water. One day, one of the rancher's laborers asked the 3 where they are from, and they answered with one word. They all pointed up at the same time and said the word above, in Spanish, obviously, though. Who are these folk? 2 men, 1 woman, all tall, thin, blonde hair, politely spoken. Beats me. In 1976, another rancher in the area was out tending his cattle when he stumbled across something weird.
Huh?
A scorched, circular plot of land. There were no tracks leading in or out of the circle. The rancher recalls that it wasn't there 2 days previous when he last done his rounds. Inside the circle were hundreds of shards of glass. It takes intense heat, and I mean intense heat, to turn sand to glass. What had caused a sandy clearing to suddenly become scorched so heavily that it formed glass? This was not followed up on either. It is as if around there they are either dismissing it all as normal or they are burying their heads in the sand. Excuse the pun. It seems, as with hundreds of other sites around the world, once a place starts to get numerous witness testimonies of strange phenomena, the same thing happens. UNESCO enter the scene. In 1979, the area was made into a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, a protected conservation area in which they have built a large laboratory complex inside the zone that they say is to study the land's biodiversity, ecosystem, geological features, and amazing wildlife. Admittedly, the area is home to some of the most unique fauna and wildlife. The area boasts some incredible cactus, larger than normal, which are not green in colour, but pink or purple. Plus, the wildlife tends to be a little bigger than normal also. The coyotes stand bigger. They have creepy centipedes that are over a foot long. The albino population for some of the animals is far greater in this region than any other. And there is a species of tortoise unique to the area, which has triangular patterns on its shell. But there are plenty of places on Earth that have their own unique wildlife, which UNESCO are not involved with. Makes you wonder, huh? A small group of walkers were hiking through the area one bright hot day in 1981. They had heard of this mysterious place of strange happenings and had decided to visit the area and see for themselves. The coyote of the area are on the large side compared to coyotes in other regions. They are also more intelligent. The group stumbled across a pack of these coyotes and initially started mocking them. A bit of bravery there. Mocking turned to fear quite quickly as the coyotes started to surround the group. In what can only be described as intelligent pack behavior, the coyotes began to herd the group, forcing them to move to a space they had not intended to go. Suddenly, the coyotes dispersed, and the group of hikers was stood on an archaeological site. One of the hikers told that it was as if the coyotes wanted them to see the site. Weird? Yes. But one of the hikers said that he had had a dream about discovering an old archaeological dig the night before. The group also mentioned that they thought they saw three tall people scare the coyotes away. In 1985, a local girl, Maria Gonzalez, was sitting on her porch enjoying an early evening chat with her grandmother. After her grandmother left, Maria sat on her own, taking in the beautiful evening sky, when out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a light. Turning her head, she spotted a bright, triangular, hovering light, so bright it made her squint. It was as if the light was searching for something, she said in an interview. She sat in amazement, watching this light for what seemed 10 minutes max, but in actual fact, and to her bewilderment, over 2 hours had passed. The bright triangle suddenly changed direction and flew up into the sky at breakneck speeds. Numerous other locals have reported these types of lights to this day. In 1999, a team of enthusiastic scientific researchers decided to have a bash at the area just before the millennium. They brought with them state-of-the-art recording equipment and detection monitors. They too, just like many previous, were baffled by the area. One evening, just before they were about to pack up for the night, the entire group experienced mass hallucinations. Their equipment was showing strange energy fluctuations. Just before the whole group witnessed three shimmering figures stood only yards in front of them until they slowly vanished into thin air. This caused the group to pack up early and head home. A worker from the UNESCO Biosphere Laboratory went out for a daily run one afternoon in 2004. She had decided to take a different route from her normal run and ended up somehow getting lost. After several hours in the desert, her hopes of finding her way back were fading. But she states that out of nowhere, three people dressed in strange, colourful clothing and with blonde hair appeared in front of her and pointed her in another direction. This direction luckily helped her back to the lab. She didn't turn up for work the following day and posted a resignation letter to the lab a week later. It came to light in 2013 that a member of staff from the new research laboratory built in the area had written a journal. A set of pages from a 3-month long diary had surfaced in the media. The journal's author was Hector Alvarez. He stated that during a graveyard shift, he had noticed bizarre weather readings on his computer. Looking outside, the weather he was reading did not match with what was actually taking place outside. The weather was calm, hot, but calm. Not according to his computer readouts, though. He was employed there for this reason, to monitor the weather activities around the laboratory. The readings were false all night. Also, the speakers were giving off loud white noise with occasional what sounded like distant voices. After all of this, the computer stopped working for the next shift. When examined, inside the belly of the computers, everything had been fried, completely obliterated. Another night, Hector once again picked up strange wind patterns and pressure readings. This time he brought a camera and went outside to record, but the camera malfunctioned. It would work inside the building, but as soon as he stepped outside, it stopped working. On the walls outside the building, the paint was beginning to blister. The flaky paint was starting to form triangular patterns. A month later, Hector recorded that he went outside and watched a group of triangular lights glowing brightly and swirling around the lab. The journals ended abruptly, mid-sentence in fact, and it is alleged that Hector went missing halfway through a shift, never to be seen again, although his car was still in the lab's staff car park. The staff turnover in this facility is high, and some not even completing a first shift. And it is said that Hector isn't the only person from the lab to mysteriously go missing. There have been several others, but it's all hush hush. This area is definitely not right. Something is happening. People constantly reporting feeling a tingling feeling when they visit Mapimi Desert. Some say the area is full of minerals deposited underground, magnetite being one of them. Could that be the reason for so many meteors hitting the area? Could that explain the compasses spinning and the radios, etc., going crazy? Maybe, but that still doesn't explain the 3 mysterious people, the 2 men and 1 woman, the blondies. Must also be said that the zone of silence happens to fall on the same latitude as the Bermuda Triangle and the pyramids of Giza. Coincidence or significant? The UFO sightings are some of the most convincing ever heard. I say heard because no one has been able to take photos of what they have witnessed because, in harmony with the area, their cameras have malfunctioned. Some may say, how convenient, but that's just how the area works, unfortunately. Others have witnessed a bush or a piece of dense scrub just suddenly bursting into flames as they walk by. Now, I know some folk are going to say that losing a signal on a phone or not being able to pick up a radio signal, etc., is nothing new or unique. And I agree, it's not. But what you have to understand is that this flat desert, this wide expanse of nothingness, is home to what they call border blasting radio masts. That's a set of huge, state of the art antenna that is used to boost signals and enhance Mexico's communications with the USA, especially the massive state of Texas. So really, the everyday mobile phone or a simple walkie-talkie style radios should work perfectly. But that's the thing, they don't. Another thing as well, remember the triangular UFOs spotted? And the triangular patterns on the blistering paint on the outside walls of the laboratory? And the triangular markings on the endangered tortoise of the area? Well, scientists have done studies on some of the wildlife in the area, and whilst doing blood work on numerous animals, they noticed something really bizarre. The blood cells on some of the animals were not rounded like they should be, but almost triangular. There is a couple that have moved to the area instead of moving away like most others. They state that they had been trying to start a family ever since their marriage 8 years previous, but with no success. The doctors had even told them that due to fertility problems in the woman, that she was highly unlikely to ever conceive. The Mexican couple visited Mapimi for a restful vacation. On returning home, they got the unbelievable and exciting news that his wife had finally fallen pregnant. A good vacation in the zone of silence? I bet it weren't that quiet. 4 years later, after once again trying for a second child without success, the couple returned to Mapimi, and yes, you've guessed it, conceived for the second time. They obviously fell in love with the area and eventually moved there. They now have 23 children. No, I'm only kidding. They have 3. But they definitely consider the zone of silence the reason for their extraordinary good fortune. This area has been the talking point of thousands of researchers. It has been a hotspot for numerous paranormal investigators and a love haven for 2. But is the zone of silence just a place full of underground minerals that disturb technology? Is it an area full of exaggerated stories in order to generate tourism? Or is the zone of silence a window or a portal to another dimension, another world full of tall, thin, blonde haired aliens? You be the judge. Thanks for watching again. I hope you enjoyed it. A weird place, isn't it? I have no idea what's going on there. If you've got any ideas or you think you know what's going on there, please leave a comment below. If you liked the video, please don't forget to click the like button. It really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Anyway, I've got to go. I've got 3 people coming round. Yes, they're tall. Yes, they're thin. And yes, they're blonde. But they can't speak Spanish, so it can't be them. Anyway, bye for now. See you in the next video.